Hi again.
Hi again. I keep waiting for you.
I know. I think our little standoff, because it doesn't translate in the audio version. You have to be
No,
watching.
we're just trying to
It
get
just
people
comes
to use
across as
it.
a blank space when in the audio. People are like, "What?"
I have a
Uh,
segue. I've been watching a show that you also watched that has to do with a podcast. I'm forgetting the name. But it annoys me because they don't hold their microphones up to there's so many things and then they go off and talk and do other things. I'm like, that wouldn't work.
yeah, it wouldn't
Now
work.
that I'm in this world, it's bothering me. I'm
Now
like,
that
come
we're
on, Hollywood.
pros in the podcast world. Well, here we
Yeah.
are to discuss The Girls Who Went Away by Ann
hmm
Fessler. We've got Lydia and Linda. These are
Oh my gosh. Anne really packs the punches on these last two.
I mean, imagine what it must have
No.
been like to have to live with this for however the years it took to
No.
write the book. Very, very heavy. Like we've
Yeah.
spent months reading it
Yeah.
and then, but we're not writing it. And
And
it's
getting to know
just,
these women. I
hmm
think the pain it would be
that is
what
the
was
one thing that just
yeah.
is the common theme throughout every one of these
Yeah.
stories is the pain and the how
Yeah.
a defining, life-changing, I mean, just nobody has really good things to say. It's very, very sad.
I feel like if we went through Lydia, who is this like wonderful Southern California girl, happy with her boyfriend from the valley, a musician. I mean, you can feel it.
Hmm.
They were in love. They stayed together before and after the baby. They were just told by their parents, this is what you'll do. It's, you know what I mean? And she, the
Hmm.
one they sent her to this place, this is just hit me hard. The whole thing, this one was a packed punch, Lydia, but she said, they decided the best thing for me and for everybody, I guess, would be to send me to a facility. They called it a home, but I call it a facility, a sort of warehouse in Los Angeles. I mean, then she describes it like all these beds, and it was like a warehouse. I'm like, where is
Hmm.
this? We
Like
we
a,
know LA. It's just horrible.
I know.
It's horrible. And her mother called her a whore and a slut. Like she's like, I couldn't
Right, because
picture
she
this.
told them, I am not staying here. So they didn't,
No.
then they brought her home and
Oh,
then she would lock her door at night because her mother was so abusive to her. I don't know. I couldn't tell if it was physical,
no.
but certainly verbal and calling
Yep.
her names through the door. And I mean, it just wasn't any
God.
better.
Horrible. She has this beautiful baby boy. Her boyfriend at the time is with her. They both have to give away this baby that they want to be together. It reminded me so much of American Baby because they're
Hmm.
a couple that could raise their baby. And I just, or at least have help to figure this out. And she signed something for foster care. So they kind of lied to her and she like
Right.
put him into foster care. She didn't even know that's what she was signing. 9 hours out of having a baby. Here, sign this. Such a
I know. The
poor
terrible
thing.
time. And then she did say she was never the same person after she walked out
Never.
of that building. Never
Yeah.
the same.
Yeah.
She became depressed. She'd been a happy, well-adjusted,
Yeah.
life-loving,
Yeah.
ocean swimming, sunny girl.
Yeah.
And this just put the kibosh on all of that.
No. She never had any more children,
Right?
and
Mm.
neither did the father of the baby.
Right.
And they didn't stay together. They did stay together for a while. They got a little house together and tried to have a certain relationship. That's how in love they were. And I think this just destroyed that. And then she went through another bad marriage. I mean, it just really messed with her life. It's um there was she said some big stuff like
This has
big,
really got me too. When her
yeah.
son finally found her, right?
Oh, yeah.
They talked on the phone and she said, "You sound just like your father."
Mm-mm.
And he said to her, no one had ever said that to him before, which of
Yeah, the
course, as
little
adoptees,
right.
we know, but she wouldn't have any way of knowing that or connecting that necessarily.
No, why she's telling Anne this, something for the adoptee comes out because he was probably like, whoa.
Yeah.
And they were so similar. They had such similar things and they are close. I mean, they stayed close, but it's hard. You miss a lifetime with somebody. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
she gets mad. So what I liked about her is she becomes, like an advocate and gets
Right.
mad and
And
starts
starts working with
speaking.
children
Yeah.
and doing all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, and then she just talks about how, it makes everyone so uncomfortable to think that in
Yes.
this civilized society, anybody actually could take a baby away from a young woman and expect her not to be sad. Like,
Right.
how is that even, it's just such a disconnect.
She's kind of forward thinking too, because she said, like, I had this rage, but I had to suppress it because I wouldn't be here if I kept up with that rage. Like,
Hmm.
she knows what that would have done to her.
Like,
And she
and
said,
what it did to some of the other
so
mothers that we've read throughout the book,
yes, horrible,
self-destructive and
horrible. And she said, I came to really resent the language. This is what we always talk about, how the language is so defining in adoption, right? I came to resent the language that was used to describe me and my experience. Everyone who would talk about adoption in general or about adopted people or mothers who had lost their children seemed to use all the same sort of jargon, what I would call loaded language that's emotionally charged. It's judgmental and biased on one side of the issue. I'm
yep,
like, hello. She
I
really
know.
nailed it. This one. Lydia.
Oh
Tough
gosh.
girl, tough woman.
Tough, tough, tough. You have to be, right?
Yeah.
And
Both
then there was
these women.
Linda, who grew up in Waco, Texas, very Baptist.
Mm,
Everything, whatever else was going on in the world, the free life of the 60s was not going on in Waco.
no.
She became a nurse in during the Vietnam War and was tending to soldiers, which was just horrific.
God. Yeah. Burn
And
victims
she said,
mostly.
like, right,
Yeah.
and that they made them keep their mouths shut about how many were actually coming in because they didn't want the people of the US to know how
Yeah.
badly and how
Another lie.
many injured there actually were,
As
another
your father.
societal lie. Like
Your
my
husband.
father, yeah.
Hmm.
Um, so she met a soldier, fell madly in love with him. He fell madly in love with her, told her he wanted to get married. She gets pregnant, and then she finds out he's actually already married,
And that
which,
this is a thing, by
yes,
the
that this is a
way.
thing what these men did.
Yeah, because he gave her a little ring and everything. She was already planning her wedding. And supposedly this was a thing that soldiers were kind of doing, to have side affairs.
Hmm.
I mean, understandably, they're going through their own stuff, but it's like, geez, the fallout.
And then they gave her an honorable discharge, but didn't she doesn't get a
Oh,
pension. He gets the pension, right?
yeah.
So he has no consequences. He's married, has an affair with her, but yet she gets punished.
Yeah. And she was allowed to come back. She learned later in the language for the army, but no one
And but
told
she
her
didn't, no
that.
one told her that because they didn't want her back.
No.
So duplicitous and
Yeah, she
mm,
gets kicked out of the service. So she has this baby. And she has the baby on the fort. I mean, she has horrible stuff with her parents. Of course, they're terrible. And then she has the baby on the fort, like on the base, and can hear the helicopters landing and stuff.
yeah.
Like, how bizarre that she's going through all this stuff.
And then she saw the babe, she saw her daughter who looked just like her. This really gave
Oh,
me
yeah.
chills. She said, told her daughter, in her ear, like, I swear I will find you when you're 18. I love you. I don't want to do this. And then the
No.
daughter said when they did meet, she never worried because she knew she'd find her. That was profound to me.
Yeah, it's sunk
That
in
she
as
said her
something.
soul heard that.
I know. That was so big.
Just profound.
Yeah. And she has a couple good quotes. She says, with adoption, it's never final because the child is walking around on this earth somewhere. Like, for instance, she was talking about how if someone dies or all these things that mothers go through, but this, it's never final.
Right.
It's just a lost child. So whenever she watched something on TV about a missing child or anything, this is the same thing. It's just, it's not discussed. Can you imagine just being,
No, I know. And that every July 3rd, she would think of
oh,
her daughter and now she's an activist for open records and
yeah,
uh, she, even though her mother did not want to meet. So when they did
yeah,
reunite, her mother was
right.
like, I don't want to have anything to do with that baby and that child. And her
Yeah,
dad did, but she
yeah,
still took care of both of her parents. And it's like
yeah.
adoptees and their loyalties that necessarily aren't
Oh,
always
and her
warranted.
is her mom the one where she literally said, if you have to make a choice, and she said, I'm choosing
Yeah.
my daughter.
Yep.
And I
Mm-hmm.
should have done that 18 years ago or whatever it was, how many ever years ago. And that was a strong, I thought that was pretty. She's like, I'm choosing her. And at the end, she gets to know her daughter's family a little.
Mhm.
Like the last wrap up, I think she's our last interview. She says, "We've all not only has my daughter done a lot for me, so as her family, we've all made changes. We've grown together. We may not be the all-American recognized family, but we're one family at the center as our daughter." That would be the hope that the adoptee, as we are
Mm.
adoptees, but that's not what most families go through. So she actually had nice, some people who wanted to work with her and let her see her daughter. And
Yeah.
I don't know. This,
Oh,
and you're
well,
breaking our hearts.
I know. And next week is our last
It's it.
chapter of this book. Every
And we
mother
interview
but
Anne.
my own, chapter 11. Yes.
Yeah,
So,
it'll be big.
all right. Well, I'll see you in a minute for Julie.
Yeah, Julie's good. Okay, see you in a minute.
See you in a minute.